Inhuman, Part 2, Chapter 7, A One-Sided Reunion.
Command, the locals are going feral. Please advise.
The captain of the 7th Infantry Company called out to his dreadnought, his radio crackling with static. Thick smoke lingered in the air. His men had just gunned down another wave of rabid attackers. The captain and some of his veterans had fought against insurrectionists before, but this time their situation was different. For now, they were the hunted, it seemed. These rebels attacked unarmed, wanting to tear apart the humans with their bare hands. The black-clad warriors with the crimson birds on their chests held on in this wave of insanity, desperately trying to make sense of the events. Some of the crazed attackers were still crawling around, even with multiple internal organs on the outside. They had a singular goal: to murder the lightnings inside the hastily erected fortification. To make things worse, sometimes one of the already downed madmen rose again, despite having been felled by multiple fatal wounds.
Cap, face the facts. These are zombies.
A lightning tried to convince his commanding officer, but he just scoffed.
There are no such things as zombies. It's just some chemical, a combat drug or the like, making them rabid,
he yelled.
That one still moves around. Get him inside. We'll interrogate the bastard.
He pointed at a purple alien nearby, whose legs were blown off below the knees. He still crawled towards the warriors. Two unenthusiastic privates grabbed the man by the stumps, and they dragged him inside.
Now listen here, buddy. You will speak and we won't let you bleed out. How about that?
The captain asked. The vein on his forehead pulsed vibrantly as he tried to put on a reassuring face for the guest. The alien just snarled. The captain's auto-translator told him that clearly, both in audio as well as in writing after he prompted the AI to give a more detailed answer. And seeing snarl and growl written out on his datapad certainly didn't put the irritated officer in a better mood. One of his sergeants tried to reason with the man.
Cap, we should bolt. This is above our pay grade. I won't run away from a bunch of mad bastards. I've seen worse.
The captain barked, unaware of just how sorely mistaken he was.
Run if you want, Nichols, you bloody coward.
The sergeant named Nichols wanted to make a retort, but the alien took his chance. He surged forward using his arms, and he bit down hard on the sergeant's leg. The rest of the unit pumped the alien full of lead, on instinct and for good measure. Nichols inspected his wound. The bite went deep, and blood flowed amply, though the white substance from his torn uniform already rushed forward to clog up the injury.
Oh crap, is he infected now?
One of the privates asked.
He's not infected,
a pale voice assured them. The lightnings turned as one, guns trained on the stranger.
A bloody halcyon. I didn't know what else was missing from this clusterfuck. I'm Captain Tagish, and I need you to sod off from my bunker.
He spat, leering at the dark-clad man who wore the image of a small white bird on his chest.
I know who you are. You need to leave. All of you.
The half-handed halcyon walked up to the window, not an ounce of hurry in his stride. He checked on the killing fields.
If there is a next time, you should burn the bodies. They get up fast. Are they zombies?
The sergeant stuttered. This time, true terror burned within his warm brown eyes.
You are not infected, and these are not zombies,
the captain said, searching for something on the distant horizon.
Nichols, I swear one more word about zombies, and do not use names. Do not talk more than necessary.
Another halcyon warned. He entered the building and strolled to the middle of the room without anyone noticing. Tagish cussed out the sentries, the halcyons, the rebels, and the entire cursed situation.
It does not know we are here yet,
the captain said.
You need to leave Mutton while you still can. You can take our shuttle. That used to be my nickname. Where did you hear it?
Tagish demanded, his azure eyes glinting with a hint of threat. He won't be intimidated by cheap tricks.
You served under my command for 5 years. Half your company did.
The captain answered sincerely. Tagish looked at him, stunned for a second. Then he burst into a rather forced laughter.
Did you now? Well, lads, anyone recognize this man? 'Cause I sure as hell don't.
He scowled. There were 20 warriors in the makeshift fort, around 1/5 of the company, and none of them recognized him. 12 served under his command for years while he still carried the crimson bird, the phoenix, on his chest. 3 of those used to be good friends of his.
Nice try, Halcyon. Too bad no one bit. Now sod off and take your buddy with you.
A bolt of bright green plasma suddenly fell towards the planet from the heavens. Its destructive journey was stopped by an invisible force field in the upper atmosphere, dissipating the violent energies. The light show cast a mint-colored glow over most of the hemisphere. The warriors rushed to the windows and gawked.
Who the hell ordered orbital bombardment while we are still on the ground?
One of the lightnings demanded.
It has begun. You need to hide,
the captain said.
Cover your eyes, and do not look, no matter what you hear, from the outside or deep within your head. Mutton, Bones, Swimmer, I know you do not remember me, but it is imperative that you listen to me. Cap, this is getting scary. How does he know our names?
The small warrior named Bones asked. Before anyone could answer him, the corpses outside raised their heads as one, gazing at the bunker. The next moment, they got back on their feet, those who still had them anyway, and charged with borrowed vigor. The heavy flamethrowers of the Halcyons stationed outside made short work of them. The true battle for the planet had begun. The captain left his former comrades with a final warning.
Do not look.
The two Halcyons left the fort to join the rest of their comrades and pressed forward. Tagish ordered his men to follow. Most did so, albeit reluctantly. They handled the next few swarms of crazed locals on the fields, but the phoenixes were not prepared for the twisted creatures that poured out of the forest next. Their unnatural movement was the first thing they noticed. These creatures did not move on legs. They flowed like a liquid, rushing like purple waves. Then the flames cast by the Halcyons illuminated their hateful forms, and it sapped the fighting spirit of the phoenixes. Veterans of dozens of brutal battles, warriors who lived through situations that would have broken lesser men, all were stopped in their tracks. Some dropped their weapons like their jaws, others held onto them as if they were the teddy bears of their childhoods. None followed the Halcyons into the forest that waved so bizarrely. Soon the earth began to shake violently, as if the tectonic plates were trying to make up for centuries of arrears. A new mountain emerged, a purple and pitch-black mass rising from the ground, drawing the warriors' attention. It wasn't the ghastly form that broke them, but the foul presence behind. Some gouged out their eyes, screaming as they tried to escape the truth. Others shot themselves. The rest just lay down on the soft grass, robbed of will and sanity. Captain Tagish sat on the ground, laughing and weeping at the same time, unable to look away from the distant horror. The planet-wide assault of the Halcyons was nearing its goal. Many anchors were severed, and another bolt of burning hot green plasma was sent towards the planet. The force field gave in. The fire fell through the upper atmosphere, racing ever lower, and struck the mountain without mercy, burning through thousands of tons of flesh by the second. The raging heat unleashed whirlwinds of fire, and the air was shaking as far as hundreds of miles removed. Soon another bolt followed its pal, then another, until the mountain was reduced to cinder, the plasma turning everything to ash in a 90-mile radius. The Halcyons examined their red comrades on their return.
Shall we take them back to the ship?
One of them asked.
No, euthanize them. There is nothing we can do,
the captain answered nonchalantly. Back at the makeshift fort, a single phoenix cowered in a hidden corner. His face was buried in his palms, and his nails were carving deep marks on his forehead. He was muttering something too.
I did not know you started praying, Bones. Keep it up. Focus on the words, do not let anything else in. Halcyon? Is it you? He said you want to trick me, that you are the enemy. Where are the others?
His voice was a broken whisper.
Dead. Believe me, it is better than the alternative.
The lightning opened his eyes, looking at the captain between his dirty fingers. He couldn't fully take out his face in the dimly lit room.
Who are you? You used to know me as Wolf. I was the captain of your company before Tagish. I know that name.
The blue-eyed phoenix stared into the stranger's face, but his eyes refused to focus, to clear up the blur. He couldn't describe the Halcyon's features, even if his life depended on it.
Are you going to kill me? No, Bonesy. You are smart. We are getting you out of here. Keep your eyes closed and keep praying. Focus on the words. Do not let anything else in. You can never be sure of the enemy.
Chapter 8. A Longing for the Stars. Rachel and Elena lay in the grass in Peter's yard and studied the massive book before them. The early afternoon sun warmed their hair, and the bees and flies occasionally searched them for the flowers they thought the girls were hiding. The smell of the fruits still lingered around them, creating a sickly sweet aura, and the cheated insects had to retreat without their prize.
How about that one?
Elena asked, pointing at a little blue and white bird.
No, the beak is different, and it should be yellow, not white.
Rachel frowned.
Maybe a little white around the neck,
she answered while rubbing her neck.
What if it's not a real bird? Just something you dreamed up?
Rachel blew her hair out of her eyes and turned the page. The next one was a bright green avian, a type of parakeet, and she sighed before slamming the book shut.
I guess you are right. I really hoped to find that bird. Let's grab lunch.
Before they could get up, Peter walked up in front of them. The knight found him in the main hall, and he was just returning on unsure legs.
Hey girls, everything peachy?
He greeted them, his mind going absently for the joke. Peter stopped and took a second glance at the youngsters. He rubbed his eyes before looking again.
I think I'll drink a glass of water and check back. Remind me later if I actually saw you two. Funny.
Rachel snorted and shook her head.
Tell me, please, what did the elders say about the booze? That we should always show restraint. Only in obedience to the master must we fully commit ourselves.
Peter sighed.
I'm making something cold and lemon-like. You two want something?
Elena thought for a moment.
Are you familiar with a blue and yellow bird, Uncle Peter? A blue and a what?
He walked up to them.
Is it homework? I am not obligated to do homework anymore. Did you know that? Yes, it's homework.
Elena fibbed, and she nodded along far too eagerly. Rachel cringed and closed her dough-brown eyes for a second. Her new friend was a horrible liar. Not to mention only the children had a few morning classes during the summer.
Blue and yellow. Anything more?
Peter took the heavy book and opened it.
It has white patches on its neck and a long black beak.
Rachel explained.
Big or small? I mean, smallish.
Rachel furrowed her brows.
Definitely not big.
Peter flicked through the pages until he found what he was looking for. He showed the open book to the girls.
Is he your guy?
He asked. Rachel's face lit up.
Yes, exactly.
She eagerly nabbed the book from her cousin's hands.
The common kingfisher, also known as the mythical halcyon, and from halcyon days, a time of serenity and happiness. And days of peace, remembrance, in the myths. Thank you, cuz. We've got this now.
Rachel snapped short the commentary, and Peter left to nurture his hangover. The girls studied the picture and read the description. It detailed the appearance, size and habits of the kingfisher, but Rachel could not find anything useful. Not something that would explain her dreams anyhow.
So you are saying it attacks the master?
Elena asked as she ran a finger through the photo of the harmless-looking little bird.
Yes, they fight, and it's terrifying. It's as if they were ready to destroy the entire world, just to deny the other. Are you sure you didn't see the bird, nor anyone else?
Rachel held out hope.
No, I don't think so, sorry Ray. Well, these are just dreams anyway, right?
Rachel smiled at Elena, but the native girl couldn't return it sincerely. All she could manage was an unsure frown.
I guess I am more sensitive to iter travel. It's not like, it's just religion, right? The elders will decide whether they like me or not.
She smiled again, but Elena wasn't even trying to return it this time.
The master is real, Ray. He is here with us. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to mock your faith. Sure, the master is all around us. You built a lovely community around him, but...
Rachel tried to excuse herself, but Elena interrupted.
No, Ray. He is here. Really here.
Rachel didn't want to offend her new friend, so she just nodded. The sun was warm, the air sweet, and there was no need for a fight. She wanted to recommend lunch again, but Elena was the first to speak.
So what's it like out there?
She asked. Rachel raised an eyebrow.
What's it like in different worlds? Your home world, other places, not just the things. How does it feel like to be in those places? You said you visited more planets.
Elena felt a bit guilty for asking these questions, but curiosity got the better of her.
It's different.
The blonde girl laughed.
Bigger, faster, but also colder, I guess, a lot less caring. It can be really lonely. Why, do you want to see what's out there?
Rachel chuckled. Elena turned red.
Maybe. I'm curious. I would like to see it, to see different places.
Elena stumbled on her words. She gazed at the distant horizon, marveling at the contour of the great gas giant above them. Suddenly the native girl cried out in pain, burying her face in her hands.
Are you okay, Lena? What's wrong?
The brunette girl shook her head as blood trickled down her hands.
Okay, let's get you to Mr. Tespus.
Rachel pulled up her friend and gently guided her towards the village's doctor. They met Tom on the way, and the lad rushed to their aid.
What happened?
He asked the girls. Elena wanted to explain, but another jolt of pain struck her, while even more blood burst out from her nose. He helped guide Lena to the little clinic and rushed ahead to knock on the door when they got closer.
Come in,
a groggy voice invited. Tom opened the door and held it while waiting for the girls.
Are you okay? It looks pretty scary.
He aimed his question at Rachel when the pair reached him.
I'm fine, thank you.
Lena spat as she stomped inside, slamming the door behind her. Tom smiled like an idiot.
So I was thinking, the Roberts family will hold a housewarming next weekend, a little celebration. There will be dancing. I was thinking, do you want to come with me?
He blurted out with a hopeful grin. Rachel let out a surprised chuckle as she looked at the lad. His face dropped, and he blurted out a few semi-coherent words, but the girl stopped him, grabbing his hand.
Yeah, I would love to,
she said. Tom's face lit up with a smile, and he uttered a few more incoherent syllables before gathering himself.
That's great. I'll check on Lena,
Rachel said.
See you soon.
Mr. Tesper stopped the bleeding with an ancient coagulator. Its unique coppery smell lingered in the air. Elena rubbed her nose, testing it for damage. It wasn't too bad, only a small vein ruptured in her nose, but the doctor scolded the girls.
No fighting, talk out your problems, or ask the elders for guidance. I will let you off with a warning this time, but if it happens again, I'll drag you to the elders. I don't think your grandmother would be too happy, Elena. Oh, we didn't fight.
Rachel tried to explain, but Lena interrupted her.
We won't. Sorry, Mr. Tespers.
She pulled Rachel out to the street.
Let's meet after lunch, behind the old tree at the pond. And, please, don't tell anyone what I said before, about,
she said, and left without waiting for the answer. Rachel walked home to grab lunch. Peter sat in his rocking chair, sipping lemonade from a jug and balancing an ice pack on his head.
Sup?
He said when his cousin entered.
Mr. Tespers called, saying you fought with Lena. Did you punch her in the nose? You have communicators?
This surprised Rachel. She hadn't seen the locals using one, and her father confiscated hers.
Phones,
Peter explained and lifted a curved, cream-colored object from the table. Rachel noticed it before but never thought much of it, believing it was an ugly piece of decoration.
But where is the interface? Where do you see the other person? How do you connect to the web?
She wondered.
You don't. It's audio only, like an earpiece,
the booming baritone explained.
But why is it so big then? It's weird. Anyway, I'll grab lunch and get back out. Lena wants to see me. Okay, have fun. Wait. You just fought. What? She wants round two?
Peter exclaimed as he tossed the pack of ice on the table and strained his mind, trying to understand what was going on.
We didn't fight.
Rachel was stuffing her mouth with leftover stew.
Her nose was fine 1 second, then turned into a fountain of blood the next. Because you punched her?
Peter squinted hard.
No, 'cause we were in fact talking about some other things. What other what doesn't matter. Do you swear you didn't fight? I swear, I actually like her. She felt weird when I came here, but we talked things out yesterday. And when was that?
Peter was still suspicious.
After your third wine, I think it was strawberry, after the peach game. Right. Moretta sent one of the Roberts kids to check on you. Okay, have fun.
He leaned back and plopped the ice pack on his face. Rachel took a few cookies with her when she left. She didn't have to hurry. Lena's home was farther away from the pond, so she took her time, strolling on comfortably, basking in the afternoon sun. She sat down by the pond, took off her shoes, and watered her legs while waiting. Elena came shortly. The girl jogged along and brought her golden retriever. The dog ran up to Rachel to say hello. She was a bit too eager in her introduction and almost pushed Rachel into the lake. Daisy, the friendly retriever, needed a lot of petting before the girls could get to the point of their meeting.
So, what did you want to talk about?
Rachel asked as she tried to wrangle a stick out of Daisy's mouth. Lena just shook her head and pulled a stack of papers from her backpack. They were filled with doodles, and she showed the first one to her friend. It depicted a blonde and a brunette girl. They were standing near a pond. Lena pointed at the picture, then at Rachel, and finally at herself.
Yes, I'm also happy to meet you,
Rachel said, stifling a laugh.
No offense, but you are a much better singer. Maybe use your voice.
Lena shook her head and furrowed her eyebrows.
Is your throat hurt too?
Rachel asked with rising worry, but Lena shook her head again. She pulled out another picture. It depicted the same figures, but they were inside a tube now. The tube itself was swimming in a blue sea.
A submarine?
Rachel guessed, but Lena again shook her head. She pointed at the tube, then up to the sky.
A spaceship.
Rachel laughed now, and she interjected before her friend could pull out another paper.
All right, enough with the games. Just say what you want to say. No one else is here.
Lena shook her head and pulled out a few more pictures. These usually depicted the same figures, though the brown-haired girl stood alone in some of the sketches. The figures were at different places. One showed them in the middle of tall buildings, and Rachel guessed it showed the skyscrapers of her hometown. Another portrayed them in a desert. At least this is what the Outworlder guessed the yellow lines around their drawn counterparts depicted. In yet another, the brunette girl stood in a tube alone. This time, the blue sea was dotted with yellow stars. Rachel looked Lena in the eye.
You want to leave?
Lena's face turned into a mask of terror, and she shushed her friend while looking around the clearing, checking if anyone sulked around the corner, but nobody else was there.
Look,
Rachel whispered.
I think drawings leave more evidence, but whatever. If you want to leave, you soon can. You will be an adult. And if you want to come with me to visit, I'm sure we can make that happen. We just have to convince your grandma. And if you want to travel around the galaxy later, we will do that too.
Elena's face betrayed no emotion. Her lips were pursed into a thin line. She leaned into her friend's ear and whispered,
You promise? Of course I promise. We will explore the galaxy.
She laughed out loud, but stopped when Lena looked around in fear.
Come on, no one else is here. He is here. He always is.
The native girl wasn't joking around. She was sincere and afraid.
The master, you mean? Yes.
Rachel wanted to shrug it off, but thought better after her friends scanned their surroundings again. It didn't make sense. The native girl was the first to volunteer her service to the elders when the opportunity arose. She led the choir. She was pious even by the community's lofty standards.
Is it he who doesn't want you to leave?
Lena went pale and nodded.
Okay, it is going to be our little secret.
She hugged Lena and whispered,
Worst case scenario, you can hide in my suitcase. I ruined some clothes during the first week anyway. There will be enough room for you. I promise I will get you out of here. I swear, really.
Elena chuckled and ran to catch Daisy, who chased after a squirrel. Rachel shook her head. The religion of the locals seemed so nice. She didn't understand what made Lena so frightened. Her grandmother was strict for sure, and being raised by an elder must have been demanding. But the girl's worries felt excessive. Maybe some time off-world would help her clear her head, just like this exile helped Rachel. She marveled at the crystal-clear surface of the pond when something caught her eye. A dark form stalked the tree line, but when she looked up, it was already gone. She shuddered but calmed herself fast, careful not to frighten Lena. It must have been her imagination. The blonde girl quickly convinced herself. The dreams and all the talk about the master making her see things, or was Sly. Old Moretti indeed spying on them. Chapter 9. A twice-ended world. They missed the signs somehow. They only noticed the change when the nearest stars dimmed. The precursors wanted to quarantine the area. The Halcyons choose otherwise. They made landfall on the remote planet, a world that was off the maps for millennia, hidden in plain sight. Its earliest inhabitants decided to leave behind technology and all the hustle of modern life, dreaming of something simpler, something better. A few among them followed a strange new belief that lined up rather well with the future they envisioned, so the people soon adopted it. The little colony grew fast, hundreds, thousands, and at its height, hundreds of millions of souls lived their parochial lives on that remote green and blue rock. A traveler from the wider galaxy would have found them strange, for even though their numbers were massive, they did not build cities. They lived in small villages, often just a few miles from each other. They passed the event horizon without even noticing it, and their master claimed them, their souls, their world, their everything, and they gave it all away willingly, with tears of joy in their eyes. The Halcyons landed on the shore of a great sea and scouted the landscape. They prowled along the coast at first, for that thin, sandy line between sea and land was the safest place in this utterly alien world dotted with black pyramids and desecrated forests. The air was still, and no waves struck the stubborn shores, and on the glassy surface of the sea, a reflection of a big white moon gazed at them, a moon that did not hang above in the cloudless night sky, nor did the stars offer them any guidance, for the new ruler of that world shunned their light. But the Halcyons did not dither. Though they knew it was a one-way trip, the engines of their landing crafts died the moment they entered the atmosphere. They knew it would happen. They pressed on deep into the forest that was no longer made of trees. They sought the site of the very first settlement. The stench of death was strong enough to make a hardened veteran vomit. Yet the Dark Warriors did not flinch. They walked in complete silence, careful not to bring attention to themselves. But the Dark Intelligence knew something was amiss, though the Halcyons were hidden from its gaze. The trees reached around, trying to catch the intruders. Spikes of bones were launched from the boughs, and sometimes even the putrid earth opened up, trying to swallow the warriors. It had little effect. Minor injuries like losing a limb were not enough to hinder the Halcyons. They reached a clearing. The pond in the middle no longer held water. It was instead filled with yellow bile. On the shore, a small group stood in a circle. They were vaguely humanoid in appearance. Every now and then, one of the figures would walk into the lake and dissolve entirely in the acidic waves. Moments later, it would re-emerge on the other side, rebuilt from scratch. A mass of twisting matter at first, the ball of blob slowly took on a more stable shape, forming arms and legs and head before the reconstructed creature rejoined the circle. The purpose of this phenomenon was a mystery for the Halcyons, but they did not care enough to uncover it. The leading warrior snapped his fingers. The sound rolled like a crack of thunder in the eerie silence. The shifting creatures turned towards the intruders. Their faces were empty skin, save for their mouths, but on their naked bodies, 12 eyes were arranged in a full circle. They could have had 20. The Halcyons would still remain hidden from them. The Dark Warriors pulled out their weapons and sang their songs of fire and steel. The forest of flesh came to life. The shadow was made aware of their presence, and it was hell-bent on destroying the interlopers. The Halcyons made a spectacle of fiery fury, and soon the hatred of their enemy was fully focused on them. They retreated. The ground trembled behind them as mounds of meat, muscle, tendon, and bone twisted and crawled in pursuit. Their comrades hiding nearby used the opportunity. The second company plunged deeper into the now much thinner forest until they found their target. He was encased in a throne of flesh and bone, tied to the dark intellect in body, mind, and soul. He was one of the earliest colonists, the first cult leader of the community preserved through millennia. The Halcyons dispatched the remaining guards, and they took apart the horrid throne with chainsaws. Their target fell into their laps like a ripe fruit. The man crawled around in pain.
What is this? Who are you?
He searched the empty clearing, trembling in his whole body.
Master, help me. Your master cannot save you, not from us.
A calm, cold, disembodied voice explained. The Dark Warriors abstained from their usual effectiveness on this occasion. They took their time with the leader. His master did not save him. His death created an opening, a window of opportunity to strike, and the ships above opened fire. The nuclear rockets passed through the atmosphere unhindered. They carved vast, bright scars on the sky as they fell towards the ground. Fire cleansed the earth, and the Halcyons on the ground waited for their end without fear or regret. On the bridge of one of the black ships in orbit, the captain walked up to the general. A tube was attached to his left shoulder, covering it entirely, keeping the stump in a soup of hormones and nutrients. His arm would grow back fast.
The crone requires our presence,
he reported.
Indeed,
the general answered.
The peril must be greater still if the crone herself wishes to see us. Let us indulge her.
He waved at the helm, and the black ships took off into the Iter. The formerly dark planet was a ball of fire now, radiating heat and light into space. The stars shined bright again in the sector.